Lesson 5.5, Inequalities Involving Absolute Value. Our focused learning targets are I can solve and graph an AND inequality, absolute value inequality, and I can solve and graph an OR absolute value inequality. And absolute value inequalities. Absolute value of A times X plus B is less than C means we can write this inequality involving an absolute value as two inequalities not involving an absolute value. The first one would be AX plus B is less than C, and negative AX minus B is less than C. Notice what we did here. We took away the absolute value and we flipped the sign of every term. AX turns into negative AX and B turns into negative B or minus B. Let's go ahead and look at an example. It says here solve and graph the absolute value of X is less than 2. So our answer is X is less than 2 and negative X is less than 2. On this inequality here, we want to divide both sides by negative 1, and we'll be left with X is greater than negative 2. Notice here that the absolute value switches signs because we're dividing by a negative number. And we'll go ahead and graph the first one. This is X is less than 2. So we're going to have an open circle at 2. And the arrow is going to move to the left. And in our second inequality, we're going to put an open circle at negative 2. And our arrow is going to move to the right. And so where on the graph are both of these inequalities true? They do not include negative 2. But they do include this space in between the negative 2 and the 2. And it does not include positive 2. So if both of these inequalities are true, then we are talking about X being equal to negative 1, 0, and 1. Let's go ahead and look at this one over here. And absolute value inequalities. The absolute value of AX plus B is less than or equal to C means AX plus B is less than or equal to C, and AX minus B is less than or equal to C. Notice here that we have the same process happening. We take away the absolute value, and then we say and we take away the absolute value, and we switch the signs of each of the terms in the absolute value. So then we're asked to solve and graph this inequality. Absolute value of X is less than or equal to 2. So this transforms into two inequalities connected by an AND operator. So we have X is less than or equal to 2 and negative X is less than or equal to 2. In this inequality here, we want to divide both sides by a negative 1, and we'll be left with X is greater than or equal to negative 2. And so I'll get my pencil. And let's start with the first inequality is 2. It's a closed circle on 2, meaning this inequality includes the number 2. And my arrow is moving to the left. On this inequality, I have an a closed circle on negative 2. And my arrow moves to the right. And since we have an AND operator, we need to mark where this graph, what numbers on this graph make both of these inequalities true. And so negative 2 would be included in both of those inequalities. The numbers between negative 2 and positive 2 will be included in those inequalities. And the number positive 2 would also be included.